Welcome to Monster Monday. So if you've watched my channel enough, you know that I claim John Carpenter's Thing to be the greatest horror film ever made. I stick by that till my dying breath. I doubt I'll ever see anything better. That being said, I wanted to tackle the prequel from 2011. If I think it's 2011. Whichever. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. The Thing. Lame name, but I read in the trivia that they just couldn't come up with a subtitle that was cool, like The Thing Begins, or The Thing Lives, or The Thing Lives. I kind of like that. I don't like The Thing. I can tell you that. Yet another John Carpenter movie that's a sequel, prequel, whatever, that has the same title as the original film. Stop doing that. So anyway, that's not a real complaint, but it is annoying. It's like, wait, which thing? This thing. And I also consider the video game for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox to be the third part of this trilogy. I used 3 fingers there. Did you see that? That was kind of clever, kind of lame. I do. I mean, if you really want to just have a rounded story where you're like, okay, what happened? What happened after and what happened before? You kind of get that from the game, and you get that from this film right here, the prequel. Now, when this was announced, I mean, of course I'm hesitant as a fan, but you know me, I'm not that kind of person who's like, oh my god, they're gonna ruin the original. Or I don't like it. I don't care. I don't pay attention to it. It is what it is. It's kind of like something like The Exorcist 2 or something. It's like there's Exorcist 1 and there's The Exorcist 3, and I pretty much just ignore The Exorcist 2. So like, you can make a film in a franchise, it's not going to hurt the original at all. We've talked about this enough, fucking beating a dead horse on that, but I was excited. I mean, hell yeah, man. I've always wanted to know what was happening over in that Norwegian camp, or the crazy Swedes, as McCready would call them. So the idea that this was going to tell the story of what happened over there at that Norwegian camp was like, yes. And okay, let's get the first thing out of the way up front, because even fans of this film, which I am a big fan of this film, I consider it to be one of the most underappreciated horror films of the decade. And so the big elephant in the room, and the thing that we all are in agreement on, even people who love this movie, is what did the original have that made it so glorious? Practical effects. What does this movie not have? Practical effects. But what's so frustrating about it is that the practical effects were used, and the studio did test screenings and decided to go with CGI over it all. That's so angering. And what's more angering about it to me is that Universal won't release the version we all want. Give us the practical version of this movie. Why not double dip on us? How many of you would go out and buy the thing? So I posed this idea to a couple horror podcasters and YouTubers, influencers, whatever. I'm going to push even further. I want to try to start getting a petition together from and then we'll just pass it up to like every freaking horror fan, everything we know. And people are like, oh, petitions don't do anything and this and that. If you got enough petition, like signatures for something, a release, like I will buy this thing, fucking release the thing, and you send it to Universal, they would acknowledge it. They would be like, wow, there really is this, desire for this. Maybe we should look into this, So I don't know, but I want to see the practical version. Okay, so that being out of the way, yes, the CGI in this is very distracting. That said, there are moments in this movie with the CGI, because there are some practical moments and you can just see like CGI enhancements, which is what it was originally going to be. They had the cable, you know, practicals and everything. And they were going to add in just digital effects around the outsides and stuff to kind of clean things up, which is I'm fine with. I mean, I don't need the thing to be 100% practical. I understand that this is a bigger story and they wanted to do more things with it, and they wanted to up the ante a little bit. And so I'm fine with that. I just obviously want it almost completely, like, I want the actual effect to be practical, and then whatever you have to maybe remove digitally, whether that be wires or string, whatever, that's fine. That's what I'm saying by the CGI. So if they could get that out there. But there are some moments, like gore moments and creature moments in this, that I actually thought looked pretty cool, and I didn't dislike it. I didn't love it, but I was like, it wasn't too bad. And I'll get to those instances. But I want to make sure that I say that. So I went and saw this with a buddy of mine, Brandon Kinchin, and we're both enormous Thing fans. And so we went to it all nervous, like, oh shit. And we both came out of it, and we looked at each other, and we were like, so? And we were like, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I mean, the CGI, yeah. And we were like, yeah, CGI, whatever. But we were like, wow, that was a really cool movie. Like, this is clearly made by diehard fans of the original Thing. The 82 version, not the Thing from Another Planet, whatever. So I was reading in the trivia, which is amazing, that they didn't have any blueprints. They didn't have anything to work off of to build this Norwegian camp, and all of the, effects and all that they find when they get there, the axe in the door, the two-faced monster, all that stuff, the ice breaking and whatnot. They went through the negatives of the film, and they used Kurt Russell, who was 5'10", as, their like indicator for what, they used him. And blows me away that they went to such detail, and they had like pictures up in the while they were filming to make sure they got everything to look exactly like the way they find the compound when McCready and them come to look. That's incredible, man. I'm sorry. What a continuity whore I am. So that level of detail and appreciation is instantly going to win me over. But if the movie itself sucked, that would be cool, but it would be like, all right, good intentions don't make a good movie. So, but I really think this is a solid ass movie. I think that, does it compare to the original? That's such a silly thing to say, or to ask, in my opinion. I know a lot of people will say that or ask that or pose that kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm not here to compare something to John Carpenter's. If I sat around and I compared things to John Carpenter's Thing, I would be a very sad person, because nothing's going to compare to that. But they did capture a good amount of the spirit of it, because there's that isolation, there's that distrust, and being just completely unsure of everything. You got to realize too, and I think I probably mentioned this in my 82 Thing review, which I already have done, that you're already dealing with the fact. I mean, do you have any idea how much proof, actual hard evidence proof of alien life would affect this planet? It's too beyond me to even comprehend. People's lives would change forever. There would be people in full-blown denial. It's a hoax, it's a cover-up, whatever. People who are really stuck in their religious beliefs or whatever. But for the most part, when the facts were given, most people, it would change everything. It would change the whole world as we know it. At least I think so. And so they're kind of dealing with this when they find the craft. You can see it in their faces when they come around the corner, because this would be the most significant discovery ever. There's nothing that would compare to finding a downed alien spacecraft in an alien body, confirming that there was life out there somewhere. I'm sure there is. I mean, it's too big to not have some life somewhere. I'm sure there's probably thousands of planets with life out there, maybe more, maybe millions. But actually making contact, confirming that for sure. So they're dealing with that. They're dealing with the weight of like, holy shit, my whole world has changed now. And then boom, it breaks out, and they're like, what is this thing? There's nothing to go off of. You know, you have to just deal with this monster. And here's another thing that this movie does. It shows us the thing in its alien form. Now, the argument could be made that this thing wiped out another planet. And it took one of the spacecrafts and it became the creature that lived on that planet. And so what we're seeing is just another mutation. Now, what's weird about this for me is I don't really understand. I think there's a fuck up in this movie, in my opinion. So now they say the thing's been buried in the ice for 100,000 years. So maybe it purposely buried itself there and was gonna wait for like humankind, you know, or something else, because at that time, I mean, I don't know what was around 100,000 years ago, but you know, not humans, that's for sure. But this thing, okay, what, it crashes into the ice, right? And so when towards the end, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here, but towards the end, the alien gets down into the spacecraft and fires it up, and it's getting ready to take off, you know, jettison into space, or just like take off maybe and go into the city, whatever, who knows, into the city, into, you know, populated areas. If it had that ability the whole time, then why did it stay in Antarctica? Why did it crawl out into the ice? Why is it only buried in this much ice, but the ship is under this huge thing of ice? But then also, why is the ship not completely covered all the way down to the ship? They should have saved it for once the thing turned on the ship, it melted all the ice up to itself. But yeah, why wouldn't it, what, like, it injured itself, so it crawled out into the freaking ice to freeze for later? Like, okay, that would make sense if his ship didn't work at all. But because we know in this movie that this creature has the ability to essentially heal itself, I mean, it's been frozen in the ice for 100,000 years, and then when it breaks out, it seems to be pretty freaking, you know, vicious and able-bodied. I mean, maybe it's hurt. Maybe it needs to latch onto some other living form. I guess that's possible. I guess that's just what it is. The thing is very injured, and it couldn't fly in that condition. And then when it comes back to the ship, it's got a new body, and because it's taken on a new body, I guess it can't heal itself. I don't know. I mean, I suppose I would just think it would be able to reconstruct itself however it found itself. Once you injure it, that's it. That one's screwed. It can never reconfigure itself to mimic what it was originally mimicking. I don't know. I don't know how the thing works, but yeah, I just know that in this movie and the last movie, the thing, once it knows it's exposed, it forever stays out of the form. Like, it's like, I don't need to bother. But you could say that once it breaks out of the form, that it can't go back into the form. I'm trying to think of any specific moments in the movie where, in this one or in Carpenter's, where a person is fully human as we look, and then it breaks, and then it goes back into being a human again. I don't think that ever happens in this franchise. I'm not remembering any moment like that. So once it breaks apart, once it's injured, once it's whatever, like that body only has, you know, it can't repair itself, I would assume. So I guess, I don't know. That was something I was thinking about. All right, 15 minutes, and I mean, fucking really got into the movie yet. Holy shit. I knew this was going to be a long one, though. Okay, so We've got Mary Elizabeth Winstead, little Mew there. Love that girl. She's in so much cool shit in such a short period of time. It was like, oh my god, you got this role and you got this role. You know, we knew him as Ramona Flowers, and we got these. Oh, she's just a wonderful, wonderful lady. And then we got Joel Edgerton, which I want to say like around this time he was kind of still an up and comer, and he hadn't really hit much. And then we got Tormund Giantsbane from Game of Thrones. Cool, fucking amazing to see him here, and he's perfectly casted. I mean, you couldn't have got a better guy for the role. And then I like the opening joke here about the mom and the kid fucking the grandma and all that stuff. That was pretty good. And I like the concept for the film because they were like, well, let's make a remake. And it was like, well, I got a compromise for you. We'll essentially do a remake. It'll be a very similar story of these people land out in Antarctica, and then they find out that there's something replicating them, and then they have to put a test together, and then they get flamethrowers, and they get... Like, it's essentially the same story, but we get to do it really cool and just make it a prequel by setting it in the Norwegian camp. So you get like a twofer. You almost get a remake, but you get a prequel. It's a remake prequel. It's pretty kick-ass. I mean, when you really think about how they were able to pull that off. And a damn tense one. I mean, and I think that the characters, I really like the guys in this, like from the camp. And then of course you have the addition, like of two female characters in this, but one male or one female lead, and that kind of immediately differentiates itself from the other one, since that's a completely all male cast. And I guess the Norwegians are just a little more progressive than the Americans. And there is a mention in this movie of a Russian camp being about 50 miles away from where they're at. So I'm guessing that's where Kate goes at the end of this. Does she die? Does she freeze out there? Does she kill herself? What happens with her? They don't find those snowmobiles out there. I mean, they are parked around somewhere where maybe they'd never locate them when they do go find that ship later in John Carpenter's The Thing. But whatever happened, what's her fate? I mean, I would have loved to see a sequel to this had it been really well received. But I know that people will immediately scoff at that and, oh my god, I don't want to ever know. And that's always been the thing. Like, no one wants to know what happened after The Thing. I do. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with finding out, because personally I would love to see a movie where The Thing hits the mainland, you know, and it just kind of chaos ensues, and we see how accurate Blair's calculations were within, you know, X amount of months, and just a whole city not knowing who to trust. And that would be badass in my opinion. So I wouldn't mind her arriving at the Russian camp and then telling them about it, and then her whatever, and then we find out that McCready or Childs, or you don't even have to reveal who it was. You can just say one survivor from the camp was brought in and he was infected, and it spread from there, and she's like, holy shit, we need to get there, and we never find out who it was, so it could still remain ambiguous who the thing was. I know people would not be for that, but I think it'd be fun. Why not? And yeah, I already mentioned all that. And purposely playing close to that. Oh, so no, I'm not gonna mention that. Sometimes I write down notes and then I come back to them later, and I'm like, As soon as you meet Lars, you pretty much can guess that he's the guy that's going to be. Now, this movie, I know I'm jumping ahead here. I'm all over the place on this film, but I have so much to say about it. Fuck. This movie has like one of my favorite, if not like my favorite post-credit sequence. Just because when it ended, I was like, okay, cool. Like, it wrapped up. Like, I can fill in the blanks from there. Like, I don't need to see what else happens. I can fill in the blanks. So I wasn't like upset, but there was a little disappointment. Like, oh, I thought it was going to kind of maybe blend into the other one. And then you hear the bump, bump. And I was like, whoa, Carpenter's theme. How cool. What great, ending theme credits here. And then it like comes back up, and then the guy, the Norge chopper's coming in, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. And then Lars runs out, the dog runs. How fucking close is the American camp that this dog is running through the snow for how long? And Lars is a shit shot, let me tell you what. Oh my goodness. And this poor guy who just arrived, he's like, the fuck is going on? I don't know what's happening. And within, who knows, 10 minutes, an hour, however long that was, he's freaking dead. He's blown up in a damn helicopter. Poor dude. It is nice that in Carpenter's The Thing, that he had his characters, the Norwegian characters that they interact with in the opening of the movie, their faces are covered and really all you see is beards, hoods, and these goggles. So it could, I mean, it doesn't, they didn't have to like recast. It wasn't like, oh, well, that's not the guy in the other movie, but I can, just see it that way. It's fine. No, you don't have to do that because their faces are covered. So it's perfect. You can just have them go right in and you get to know that guy. You get to know Lars before and you get to like him. And I really liked the chemistry and the camaraderie and all that of the dudes. That looks like they're like fucking each other, which maybe they are. I don't know. Who am I to judge? But they all get along really well. I really like the chemistry between them. We don't get to know them as well or as intimately as we do the crew in The Thing. So it's not as focused on all the characters because I feel like there's no character left unexplored in the first one. Like Clark dies pretty early and stuff like that, but I still feel like I get to know Clark. I still feel like I get to know all these characters, Windows and Blair and whatever. Like, I feel like I know all of them. And with this movie, I couldn't tell you half the characters. So there are some characters that are kind of throwaways. Maybe they didn't need so many, but I think they're just there for body count. I think they're just there for climatic scenes so there can be more death. But I recognized everyone in the movie when they were dying. Like, they made them central enough that I was like, okay, I recognize that person. It's not like I've watched movies where a person's dying and I'm like, I don't know who this is. Who's this? Who the fuck is this character? Did I never see him? And then like when you watch it a few times, or you see him in the background like once, or her in the background for like a second, you're like, that person? Holy shit, I never even realized they were in the movie. Wow. And I kind of already talked about all that. Then they break out freaking Brendan Fraser from Encino Man. And I feel like they should be a little more defensive once they realize that an alien has broken out. And I'm glad that they didn't try to play up the whole, like, you're crazy for longer. They went and just investigated and immediately saw the roof was broken out and were like, oh shit, he must be right. Like, that's that. And of course, I love that the ice block actually matches the one that McCready finds and all that. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. The attention to detail here. The axe in the door, the split-faced creature, the dude slitting his wrist, the Norwegian helicopter, the way the buildings are blown up, the look of the buildings. It's all here. The dog, the Lars chasing, all of it. It all blends perfectly in. Like it or not, it is a fantastic attempt at a sequel. It very much mirrors the film that it proceeds. So I don't really have any complaint in that way. There's little stuff I have to complain about, CGI being the biggest, of course, but I feel like if a practical version was released, this would dramatically go up for me. Like, it would be like, dude, this is one of the best creature films of the modern era, of like the 2000s. It's that damn good. It's just bogged down by this stupid decision by the studios. Like, mainstream audiences nowadays, that was 82, and that movie bombed then, so, we're here to make money, and modern day audiences are used to freaking, 2011. Yeah, I mean, the Avengers would have been just the first one. No, that's 2012. So, but the, Iron Man and all that stuff, I mean, CGI was heavy at that time, as it is still, of course, now. But they made the big mistake that you can use CGI all you want in big budget action movies. I love it in there. That's fine. I mean, you're not going to have the epic battle sequences you have in those movies without CGI. It'd be absolutely fucking insane to even think you could. All your favorite fantasy movies big fantasy movies have CGI and it's amazing. But in horror, that's the golden rule, man. You don't really use any CGI in horror. And they broke that cardinal rule, and it cost them big because so many fans of the original don't like this movie. And their biggest reason is the CGI, and they can't look past it. And it's like, I got it. The autopsy in this, I feel like, is practical, and I love seeing, like, the body half formed inside of him, and you can like see through his skin to his teeth, and then she finds the little the inorganic material, the brace that was like on his arm when he broke it, the titanium plate, and then that's when they figure out, because they couldn't just do the blood test again, that would be lame, and they try another blood test, but then someone sabotages it, and so they come up with this great idea of like, show me your fillings. And yes, that's not going to work on everybody, because one of the guy points out like, great, I'm going to die because I flossed. I mean, that was a great line, and it does, but it's like, this is a way we can at least eliminate a few, and I loved that angle. It was like, what a smart angle. They couldn't, that's something that the original Carpenter version didn't do. I mean, it's just something that, it's not a knock on the film at all. It's just, these guys were clever, and they figured out something else to do besides, blood tests or looking into things. But they both dealt with blood sabotages. So as I said, it's fairly remakey. And the helicopter scene, I would say, if I had to argue what's the worst CGI in the movie, it's the helicopter. And what's sad about that is like the first big moment. Yes, you see a little bit of the creature. I like the creature under the house, and it sucks that guy in, and it's absorbing him, and then they cut the thing open on the autopsy table and all that. I think that all looks fine. Not amazing, but good. I was fine with that. But then, like, this close-up shot and the thing breaking apart, it's like the first reveal of a human actually being the thing, and it's supposed to be this big moment, and it's so off-putting. It's so obviously fake. And they showed it in the fucking trailer, so you knew it was going to happen, even though they tried to, throw a red herring in there, like the guy who was sick and he was shaking. Kind of reminds you of, characters from Carpenter saying, "Oh, be shaking, he's the thing." But then I'm looking and I'm like, that's the dude from the trailer. I know he's the thing. Fucking trailers. But yeah, that's a really bad looking. And then all the shit comes out of his chest. It just looks poor. It just really looks poor. And then Kate realizes that these cells are mimicking, which I have to believe that originally, because is there a thing? Like, is there an original version of the thing? And I don't think there is. I don't think that there is a physical body of the thing. Some creature, some little rodent or whatever, some little tentacle monster or what. I don't think there's an original form to the thing. I just think it's cellular growth. Like, I think it's little cells, and they get onto your body, and then boom, like it extrapolates from there, and then from there it takes on other forms, and then those forms go and attack, and it gets its host. It's just kind of like a little parasite or something. I don't think there was an original form. So what we see in the ice, I do not think that's the original form of this creature. But I could be wrong, and that could be it. This black scorpion-looking thing. It's a cool thing. I mean, it's scary as shit, man. Could you imagine that thing coming after you? Screw that. And then the lady monster, when she takes her in there, and it's really obvious she's setting her up, and she's like, look in the drawer there. I saw him stuff some rags in there. And she like breaks apart, and she's like hanging backwards. It looks fine. It's not great. It's not terrible, in my opinion. Maybe someone will disagree with me on that one. I thought that was kind of creepy. I didn't mind it as much. But I was kind of like in the middle on that one. I was like, all right, that one's not too bad. And then, all right, so that, yeah, and the rich guy has porcelain fillings. Yeah, surprise, surprise. All those losers have to get metal fillings. I love that Tormund's carrying that guy. I mean, it sucks to watch his character die because I really like that actor a lot, but he's carrying the dude in, and they have the arms over him, and then the arm just breaks off and is this like freaking leech thing. It's badass. That's a great scare sequence, man. That's something that I could see in Carpenter's The Thing. Like, that was awesome. The arm ripping off like that. Cool stuff, man. It's cool stuff. But then it like locks onto his face, and his eyeball is like, like oozing, and then she has to burn him in the corner. And you already mentioned all. I like that there's an explanation for why he doesn't pick up the axe. So the axe is in the door, and then he goes to grab it, and she's like, no, leave it. And that's another thing with this movie. Another really cool thing about this movie is there's not a lot of over-explanation, and there's no, like, reminders for the audience. I thought that that was cool. Because, like, she's like, no, don't touch it. And then you just have to fill in, like, oh, there's blood on there, and that blood could be contaminated. You don't know how this thing works, and if he touches it, it'll get on him, and maybe he'll get turned because of it. So she's like, no, just leave it, don't touch it. And then later in the movie, a lot of movies would make this mistake, and this is a horrible tell. Now, unfortunately, because there's a lot of very dense audience members, this is why they do this. But typically, the way that they handle these kinds of reveals is earlier in the movie, they would have made a big emphasis on his earring. They would have drawn attention to it in some way. Like, where'd you get that earring? And he's like, oh, this... I got this from my daughter who, I haven't seen in a while, or, something. They'd attach something to it, so we'd be like, got to pay attention to that earring. Got to pay attention to that earring. And you would just put it in our mind, but like subconsciously, we wouldn't realize we were being duped for later. But anyone who knows film and you see those like moments, those like little plot point moments where you're like, I know what that is. That's going to come into the movie later. When somebody finds something in the movie. Like, movies don't have a lot of time to set things up. So every single second of your script is supposed to be important. And if you're drawing attention to something, even it seems like it's the most inconsequential thing, 99% of the time, it's a big thing. And so, yeah, I like that this film never calls any attention to his earring. Actually, it's this ear. And that's how he gets killed, because it's his left. That is right. But yeah, when he reaches for it, it was your other ear. It's good stuff. It's good that because she realizes it by looking at him, but we're never let in on her realization and why she has that realization. I love that stuff. That's not holding your audience's hand. And I like when directors respect their viewers' intelligence. It might not work out all the time. There's been plenty of movies that I've watched with people and I don't get that. And I'm like, what? Come on, it's this and that. And they're like, oh, well, how was I ever supposed to put that together? I'm like, because you should have been paying attention? I don't know. Fuck, man, come on now. It actually kind of reminds me of the Doctor. Doc. What's his fucking name in the movie? The doctor who puts his arms through the best scare, like one of the best scares of all time, and probably the best scare in all of The Thing, when he punches the freaking defibrillators through the chest. He has a freaking nose ring in the movie, which I never even noticed until I got the Blu-ray. And then I was like, does that guy have a fucking nose ring? He's like a 50-something-year-old doctor in the Antarctic. Why does this guy have facial piercings? This is weird. And it's like, he never turns into one. But if he would have, and he still had that nose ring, that would be a little, mess up here in their version of things. But is the Thing able to mimic clothing? I don't think so, right? So it's got to change into clothing. And when the Thing takes you over, I guess it takes over your mind and it gets all your memories too. So it like goes in. So they're suggesting that on a cellular level, your memories are locked into your cells. Like because it recreates your brain perfectly. All the little memories are in there like a freaking record player. I guess so. I mean, they can speak language. They know how to answer questions. But this guy doesn't know what earring his ear's on. But he has all his memories, and he's that's a little iffy there. He doesn't remember what ear he had pierced, but he can speak English, and he knows her name, and he has memory. Like, he knows how to drive a freaking snowmobile. And see what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. So that whole, like, oh, it's on the right ear, even though I like that the way they pulled that off, him not knowing what ear it is, her being like, you don't have an earring, and then him being like, whoa, 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 and then would have been like, "Rrr," and she would have blasted him. That would have been fine. But him grabbing for the wrong ear, I don't think that makes sense. So whatever. Anyway, which I didn't even realize until right now. This is why I like to just the free flow with this shit, because I'll fucking realize things right here in front of you guys, and it's fun. I really wish I could interact with you guys. I should do these live. I'd fucking do them, in one take anyway, so why not live? But who the hell's up right now? Kate, freaking Katie Woo. I bet she's up because she's over across the pond. Hey, Katie, I know you're watching. All right. And the alien ship scene where they're running across the top of it. It's been a while, but that really reminds me of X-Files, Fight the Future. Big, big, big fan of the X-Files. Man, I was reviewing that series and I lost it. I was like 2 seasons in, and I wanted to just continue with it. I got to pick that back up. I love reviewing the X-Files, but it was getting like 40 freaking hits each, but I love it, so I'll get back to it. For anyone who's like, why doesn't Jason ever do that? Trust me, it's on my mind all the time. I think about it weekly, for sure. So I will get back to it. The final monster that's inside the ship, I think is pretty freaking cool looking, I have to say. It looks a little dodgy, I understand that, and his face on the thing, and maybe people disagree, but I think it looks pretty cool. I think that inside the ship, with all those like cubes that are moving, I think that's kind of a little over the top, a little silly to me. I didn't really need to see that. As I said, I don't feel like the ship should be able to work. I feel like this thing should have been able, but as I think I kind of already argued, maybe it is injured, to some extent, and it can't heal itself. So it just went out there to cool down. And man, she had to be pretty damn sure to burn that guy like that. But it does scream like a thing, so it definitely was a thing. And I think I mentioned everything. I mean, I probably passed by some of my notes and whatnot, but I dig the characters. I dig the atmosphere. I dig the isolation. I love the attention to detail that these guys put into this. I think this is a super, super underappreciated film. And it's a damn shame, because it's just mostly because I'm sure there's people out there that are like, no, dude, even if you had the best practical effects, this movie wouldn't be saved. That's fine. I'm sure those people exist. But almost everyone I know really enjoys this movie, but we all agree on the same thing about the CGI, obviously. But besides that, we're always like, yeah, dude, this movie's pretty fucking rad. It's a bummer. So let's get that petition going. I'm going to talk to the dudes at the Horror Mafia podcast, Exploding Heads, freaking Drum Dums, Lee McCoy, freaking everybody. I'm going to start talking to every dude I know who is an influencer, who has a large number of followers and whatnot. And we're just going to start pushing this, man. That'd be cool. It'd be cool to have something that we all did together. The horror community. We like, formed a little, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. We just get together, band together, and make this shit happen. What was I going to say? Coalition? Oh, what the hell I was trying to come up with there. Oh, well. Anyway, guys. All right. Adios.